Glad to know you stay with us. Nigeria has secured a gas supply agreement to support the revival of the long-idle Ajaokuta Steel Company after more than $8 billion has been spent on the project over 5 decades. Under the deal, up to 50 million standard cubic feet of gas daily will power the plant's independent power facility. Officials say reliable gas supply has been a major obstacle to attracting investors and restarting steel production at the complex. Government authorities plan to leverage build-operate models to revive core steel-making operations and expand national production capacity. Gbolahan Olojede, oil and gas expert, joins me for more on this. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Mr. Olojede, Nigeria has struck a gas supply agreement for its long-idle Ajaokuta Steel Company. A step officials say brings Nigeria closer to reviving a plant that has swallowed more than $8 billion in public money over 5 decades without ever rolling a single coil of steel. Excitement, pessimism, or optimism? Which best describes your emotion at the moment?
I think it's optimism. There are so many problems that we need to solve as far as that project is concerned. And, well, gas, because the plant has to be fired, it has to be powered. So if we're able to connect gas supply to the place, that is definitely a step in the right direction. But we should not take that as, saying that we are close to, like, it is Uhuru yet. It is still a fairly long journey because there are so many other problems with that institution, and gas is just one. So the right description is to say we have moved closer. Yeah, we are closer, but then it's still a long journey.
Well, let's assume that particular gas, is supplied as expected. Is that enough to bring the idle plant roaring back to life? I mean, what will it take and how long are we going to be looking at before we can then, say that we've been able to probably, or we can begin to expect a steel coil from that place?
Okay. We have a plant where the furnaces, the blast furnaces, have never been lit since they were constructed. So we're saying that we have a furnace that has not been fired probably since 1980 or 1983, 84. We have now gotten gas to the place. There is no expectation that that particular furnace will fire or it will fire well. So there are a lot of technical issues that we have to deal with if we have a furnace that is already 40-something year old and has never been lit once. We have to be able to get past that. So the mere presence of gas does not resolve that problem. We have also not really resolved the issues of raw materials. When that integrated plant was constructed, Itakpe was meant to provide iron ore for its operation. The ore from Itakpe is of very low quality. And you now have the NOMCO, or, there's a company that was set up to do some, upgrade to the ore so that it can be useful for the blast furnace at Ajaokuta. But that company is not working. The ore from Itakpe remains a poor quality ore. So the question of raw materials have also not been really addressed. Are we going to just have to be importing raw materials? The issue of technology shift is also a problem. We are talking of a technology that is 50 years old. The blast furnace, oxygen route is no longer the modern way in that particular industry. The modern way is electric arc. So the question is whether we will even be able to produce and competitively, what will the cost profile for the production look like if we start to produce using a 50-year-old technology that is based on, the blast furnace, vis-a-vis the electric arc that is the modern technology in this place. So it is still a long journey, but then getting gas means we can fire the plant, and that is a step in the right direction.
Oh, that's quite interesting. I mean, let's also not forget that some Nigerians sort of get weary when projects or deals are signed off months to elections. From where you stand, do you think they should be bothered about this particular one?
Well, and if not bothered about any other thing, they should be concerned. There will definitely be a sit-down look, in quote, approach to this one. Why is that so? Because since 1999, every government, as in every government on the line, had promised to revive Ajaokuta. None has successfully revived Ajaokuta. So the question in the mind of curious Nigerians will be, what will be different this time around? If it has not happened in 27 years, what will be different now? So most attitude will be, let's wait and see how it turns out this time. And it is justifiably so.
Well, the government has chosen to bring in partners to operate and finance this particular complex, and that's over a 10 to 15-year term. Do you think that's a better model, other than probably, or do you think it's better than outright privatization? Which of these models do you think would work best?
Well, as long as those partners are bringing money, what I would love us to be able to avoid is, pouring more money into that project. The partners, who I believe will be, will have the technical competence to do a proper assessment of where they're coming to. They understand the risk they are taking. You're taking over a 50-year-old plant, furnace that has never been fired. How do you intend to run? What are the risks that you're taking on? So since they are partners that will be expert, I believe they will be able to take the right technical assessments, gauge their risk, and take the plunge. So it's a better deal, but let these partners bring capital. Let Nigeria stop pouring capital into this project, as it were.
So what do you think the government should do differently this time to ensure that this particular project moves from another revival plan to actual commercial production?
I think Nigeria itself has not been honest enough to confront the realities of that plant. A lot of decisions around Ajaokuta have been emotional. So we're going to need a team that can be brutally honest about Ajaokuta, what is doable, what is not doable, so that it just doesn't become a perpetual deal where everybody comes in and want to do a deal and move on, and then nothing happens. So that's, for me, it should lay the foundation. We must be ready to be honest and not emotional. If this was to be a privately owned business, what would those private decision makers do? That is the kind of approach that we need for Ajaokuta. Once we are able to confront that, then avoid issues around pouring more capital. Find partners with the right technical and financial capability that can make things happen in that place. Government in itself cannot even run simpler businesses, not to talk of businesses that could be as complex as this. So the government is in the right direction by thinking of concession in operation and all that. If we do that, that will be fine. But the foundation is being brutally honest about the situation of Ajaokuta and stop emotionalizing the project for decades like we have been doing.
Well, let's hope everything goes well. What would be the broader economic impact for this particular one when the plant eventually operates at meaningful capacity?
It will be phenomenal. We all know the value that steel put on the table for literally every industry, whether you're talking of manufacturing, transportation, is at the heart of industrialization. So it will definitely help us a big deal to transform the industrial base of this economy. Are we going to get there? Should we consider alternative? All those things are on the table. But definitely it will transform Nigeria's economy, Nigeria's industrial base, and by extension, the economy.
All right, given Nigeria's domestic gas market constraints and debt issues across the energy value chain, how bankable is this 50 million standard cubic feet of gas supply contract? And, what payment guarantees are even structured to sort of prevent supply default? What do you think?
Well, who is buying? Is it the government that is buying, or is it the partners that we have signed agreement with? Gas contracts are usually signed, for a fairly long time, so that you don't make people to put in an investment, and at the end of the day, there is no guaranteed offtake to offtake what they are producing. So I'm sure this has all been factored into all this, into the gas project. The gas provider know exactly who is paying for the gas. Is it the government or is it the partners? If it's the government, what you're talking about definitely then is the sovereign guarantee of the federal government of Nigeria, which I think is solid enough for anybody to want to take. If government says, I will pay you, then it will pay you. It's also understandable from the perspective of the fact that this is a business. So if government has now said, oh, I have now been able to provide gas to power this place, if you don't pay for the gas, it's going to be cut off, and you are back to where you started from. So I believe is a solid deal that is on the table. Who is going to pay is already guaranteed, and hopefully the main project can finally take off. And if the main project cannot take off, maybe there are ancillary projects within the same complex. It's a huge complex that can take off and will be able to pay for the gas that is being piped to that place, in case the main project could not be brought back to life.
All right. Thank you so much, Gbolahan Olojede, the oil and gas expert, for sharing your thoughts with us on Business Edge today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.